Welcome everybody to the channel of SA Accounting Network. Today I've got Carmen Fourie that's going to be joining me, and we're just going to have a quick chat today about retrenchments. I think that's quite a hot topic at the moment. A lot of people's got a lot of inquiries about that, and especially with smaller businesses, don't always have the means to get professional help in this area. So I touched base with Carmen Fourie. I actually came across her watching a YouTube video as well. So but it's really nice to have her. When we talked about, she's got her own business as well, where they do employment relations is actually the business's name, where she helps businesses with all the employment related matters. And especially now with all the retrenchments and stuff that we're busy with. So Carmen, where do we start? I think if I'm a small business owner and I'm starting to run into trouble where I see, let's say for instance, I've got a restaurant or something and things aren't looking that good at the moment for people in the hospitality industry, where would you start? What is the first step that we would take if I try to consider something like looking at retrenchments or something?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think a lot of small business owners, I think a lot of people, this is not unique to small businesses, actually delay starting the retrenchment process a lot of the time. And my advice to all businesses would be start the consultation process as soon as you hit any type of bump, as soon as you hit any type of uncertainty about the future, so that you can start discussing in full transparency with your employees that things are not looking so great. We need to start looking at solutions. We need to start talking about solutions, because one of the biggest things that I'm seeing that businesses are struggling with now, because now we're about 2 months into the COVID regulations, many of them paid full salaries. Many of them did not start consultations around reduction of working hours, reduction of pay, and you can't take that back. So my advice is always start as soon as possible, get your team on board, get their opinions on board, and start to put measures in before the storm really hits, so that you can have a better shot at weathering it, rather than to try to pay full salaries or continue as normal, but then you have to shut down your business.
Okay. And then that process that you're talking about, when you have to start the procedures, would that be something formal? Would you have to tell the people, listen, guys, we can have a meeting now, but we're going to talk about the possibility of going into retrenchment? Or do you just do it over coffee with the guys while you're busy having tea and just mention it in the flyby that we're going to maybe have to start reducing staff? Is it something that's got to be documented? What is the process there? How would that normally work?
Yeah, so it is a stringent process. It is a formal process that you take. Obviously, the labor laws are written to be practical, but there are some things that are not applicable to somebody's businesses that you still have to go through. Whether it is applicable to your business or not, you have to ensure compliance at a bare minimum. So you start the process by giving what we call a Section 189 notification letter. There are 10 points in the Labor Relations Act that you have to convey to an employee to allow them to effectively consult with you. So essentially, you have to provide them with the rationale, so give them an overview of what the business situation is and some other information so that they can come to the table as effectively as possible to consult with you primarily about saving jobs. That's usually the primary thing, is that we're trying to reduce retrenchments as a whole, or at least the number of retrenchments, but you have to issue them with a notification, a formal notification inviting them to consult with you and providing them with some information. And then it's usually always a good idea to document the outcomes of your meeting. You don't have to take minutes per se, but it's always a good idea to say who was in attendance, ensure that your employees can have their right to representation and all of those things, just to put the formalities in place. And sometimes representation is a great thing, because unions and other employment representatives are very good at doing this and usually can come to the table with great ideas to save your business or to further your business. But those are actual formalities that you have to put in place.
Yeah, so it has to be documented. And we were talking about it just now that sometimes the retrenchment isn't necessarily there. That would be the last resort. If you look at other alternatives, what other alternatives are there? Let's say, for instance, I've got 10 staff members and they're working 40 hours a week, and I'm sitting in the situation where I can't pay them What would other options be? Can I just put the people onto short time automatically, or cut their hours, reduce their pay? Is there any formalities around that?
Yeah, so our workplace law, our common law, prevents any unilateral changes to terms and conditions, meaning an employer or an employee cannot just one-sidedly decide to make such drastic changes to the employment relationship. And that consultation process is the exact same one as a retrenchment consultation process. It's still a formality that you go into to say, we have a scenario, we need to talk about it. I'd like to get your agreement so that we can implement things like, and that brings us to the alternatives. There are numerous. The most practical ones that I'm currently seeing is temporarily laying off your staff, because that way they can claim from UIF, but there's some degree of a certainty of a job in future. So my advice with that one is always limit a time period. Say we suspect 3 months, but we will have another discussion with you in 2.5 months from now to ensure that we continuously talk. It gives somebody a sense of loyalty, and it gives them a sense of at least there's a job in the future. It's not like I'm completely sending you out into the wild to fend for yourself. So temporary layoffs has been a popular one in this time. Another one is a reduction in working hours, as well as then a reduction in the salaries or the remuneration packages. This one has also been nice because employees can claim for the loss that they have incurred. So you change a 5-day working week into a 3-day working week, and they put in a claim for the rest of that time as well. But again, no unilateral changes to terms and conditions. One that I found is quite helpful is to work, because of the safety regulations that have come in that companies need to abide by. Some of my clients have implemented what they call shift working. So it's teams of people who work 1 week on, 1 week off, and it's only the same teams that see each other at work, which will limit any spread. If there's any infection, if you need to shut down, you don't have to in totality close your business and lose that trading. So I thought that was quite innovative measures to put in to also ensure that you have a continuous income and you are adhering to the safety regulations from COVID. Other possibilities is making changes to the pay structure, but again, with consultation. I'm never, not that this is my personal opinion, but I'm supported by the labor legislation. Piecework, meaning paying somebody for their output, is not an amazing way to go, but it is still better than no job. So that is a way to ensure that you only pay someone for their project or for specific output, so that a company is not unnecessarily spending money. You can make changes to commission structures that might be helpful, and manage your cash flow through those commission structure changes by, for example, delaying the commission pay until the client is paid, and then saying to your consultants or your salespeople, you debt collect for me, I will pay you a portion of the debt collection that you bring in. So you actually task your employees with ensuring that that money comes in, rather than just carrying the burden as an employer by yourself. Other possibilities is, maybe not that, this is one of my least favorite ones, is where people are retrenched and then they become consultants to the business. The reason I say it's my least favorite one is some people do it to bypass the labor law. So if you do it simply to bypass the labor law, then it is of no value, because the labor law will override your agreement. Meaning if the person looks like an employee, but you call them a contractor, the labor law will make them an employee. So actually that formality, when it's not done right, is more expensive than what you're actually getting in the short run. And obviously employees are then not covered by the labor law, and they don't have unemployment benefits and things like that. That is a bit of a concern. But it gives you flexibility. So if that's a feasible option and the employee likes that, then it's a good way to go for your business. Other things is job sharing. That's always a nice one, is to try to task people to work together on things, give them projects to do. So for example, don't outsource your marketing function, task in-house people to watch YouTube videos, upskill themselves, and to perform these tasks that you would usually sort of spend money on outsourcing it. Just bring it in-house, cut your benefits. One of the massive things, and this is why contracts are so important, do not unnecessarily bind yourself to weird things in your contract. For example, there is no need to pay a travel allowance currently. Nobody is traveling anywhere. it doesn't make sense to give somebody a travel allowance when they're actually not traveling. And things like your staff are currently not traveling to work, but you can then negotiate around with them to say, okay, you usually spend 5% of your total package on travel. Can we possibly, for the time period, implement that kind of reduction so that the person is not worse off, but the business does save a bit of money? And this, again, is an alternative to retrenching somebody. So it's not a nice thing to do, but it's definitely better than losing a job. So those are the ones I can think off the top of my head, but there are a lot of options.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I think one thing that you mentioned there about the retrenchment and the consulting, obviously, we look at stuff from a tax perspective, and I know that's something that the receiver of revenue normally frowns upon as well. If all of a sudden somebody was working for you now, he's not on your payroll anymore, he's just paying the guy, and they say, okay, but what about the taxes now? You see. So that also opens up another can of worms again from a tax perspective. But yeah, there's quite an extensive list that he gave them. And so maybe can you just talk us about, maybe just briefly through the process? You would mention a bit earlier about the section 189 notice that you have to give out. So this is, for instance, worst case scenario, you do have to go through the retrenchment process. How would that normally work, just in a nutshell? So first thing, obviously, I'll call my 10 employees, I'll get you involved and say, listen, guys, this is what's going to happen. I need to retrench you guys. I can't afford to pay you. What's the next step after that? How does that process normally run?
Okay, so the first notification that you send has to have detailed information. So for example, if you're claiming that you can't afford your employees, you have to have proof to back that up. So they might ask you for your financial statements. Again, that's why you need a relationship with your accountant to be able to show the financial position of the business. So you give them that information and you invite them to consult. When they arrive for the consultation, you allow them an opportunity to ask any questions about the information that you have given through to them so that they can have a holistic picture. Now, that's a legal requirement. That is not a nice to have. You legally have to give them an opportunity to respond or comment or ask any questions. Once you've worked your way through, everybody's on the same page, the focus point becomes, let's discuss and actually negotiate around specific points. And the points are obviously trying to save the jobs, changing the timing of the dismissal, the different packages, the criteria used to select employees, because the criteria that you use needs to be firstly agreed upon. But if you cannot come to an agreement, it needs to be one that is objective and fair. So what we usually do is last in, first out. That one is the easiest one, but it's not always the practical one. So you have to then have a discussion. What is a practical one that is objectively fair when you implement that? When an employee asks you a question, you legally have to respond with yes, no, and why if you say no, so that you have record that any question that was raised, any alternative that was put to you, you responded. If they request that you respond in writing, you have to do so in writing. You continue this process until such time as you reach what we call a point of consensus. This differs from agreement, which is both parties say, yes, we want this, and you sign it. Consensus is almost, we have nothing more to talk about. No, you don't want to lose your job, but you completely understand the rationale. We have looked at and seriously considered all alternatives, all things that mitigate the adverse effects on an employee, and we have nothing else to discuss. It's almost that closure of ending a relationship. And then you sign the documentation, you give termination, and you pay out all statutory money in the severance package that you agreed to pay, including doing things like the UI-19 form and a document for the employee to take to the bank should they have any debt that sometimes is of assistance. And hopefully you write them a positive reference letter to try help them get another job.
And then tell me something, at what stage would we, or a small business owner, get somebody like you involved? Would you rather wait until the end when you're starting to figure out, okay, now we have to start retrenching, or would we try and get somebody like you involved quite early in the process when I only start thinking about possibly retrenching? When would be the best time to get somebody involved in that process?
As a practitioner, I'm always preferable for having monthly retainers with my clients. The reason for that is that I'm never court of God. I've done your auditing from the beginning. Your fee is much less because it's spread over a period of time, but continuously we have discussions, which means at no point do you suddenly now have to incur a bigger expense for a situation and bring in someone who's not familiar with your business. So we often refer to those people as hired guns. If you only get somebody like me in when you've completely made up your mind that you want to retrench, then essentially I'm just going through the motions for you. And it might save you money for me to actually just then send you a template or a checklist to go through yourself, because you get somebody in with my expertise because you genuinely want to consult to save your business and to save jobs or to ensure the sustainability of your business. So the sooner you get somebody like me in, the better, because the likelihood is that we can put sustainable solutions in place and we know your business better. So it's very important for me to get to know a client's business. I can do my job without that information, but I can do it a lot better if I have that information and if I have a holistic view of your company. And that's important when you outsource this function. It's a function that is often outsourced. Ensure that you do give somebody a proper view of your business, involve them, let them even discuss it with your accountant to ensure that the person is not going to implement something that is, according to the labor law, compliant, but detrimental to the long-term sustainability of your business. So for me, it should be ongoing discussions, and it also works out a lot cheaper. My retainers are much cheaper than it is to pay me per hour. But if you've not done that, that's not the end of the world. It's still much better to get somebody in, even if you say to me, look, I know I should have started this process a month ago, I didn't. That's fine. Great. Okay. We work with that. We can solve it. At no point would I say this is too late. You should have done it. I'm tapping out. It's still always better to try to get somebody in to assist you. But the sooner you do it, the cheaper it should be for you. And I think the solutions will be a bit more sustainable.
Yeah, and I think especially in this situation that most entrepreneurs find themselves in now, because they're already strapped for cash, so they think, no, if I can just try and do it myself, it will work out much cheaper because I don't need to pay somebody else to come and do it. But I think, especially with labor law and CCMA and all that type of stuff, I think this can possibly open up a big can of worms for which people might not be prepared for. So I think me personally as an accountant as well, I always tell people that as soon as you're starting bring somebody, start looking for somebody that specializes in labor law, that you can touch base with the guys, make sure that they've got employment contracts in place, and just make sure that you tick all the boxes, because if nothing happens, then it's fine. But if something goes wrong, that's when you start looking at problems. So I agree with you fully. I think the sooner business can get involved or get somebody like you on board that can help them to sort out this minefield of possible things that can go wrong, the better it is for that business itself. So tell me, Carmen, where can people get hold of you?
For me, they can access any of my social media accounts, be it LinkedIn or Facebook or via my company's website. You can possibly put it in the comment section of this video, just any contact details. And I hope that other practitioners do this, but I never charge for the initial consultation because I really want to first see if that I can help somebody. And my advice is the same as yours. With your industry is I would also always recommend that somebody have a consistent accountant, that you not only phone somebody once you have to do the submissions and now suddenly they have to work through 4 years worth of who knows what they have going on there. But in terms of the labor law, what you might end up paying at the CCMA is not worth saving by not investing in an expert or the right kind of person to assist you with your business to do that. So I definitely agree with that view.
Yeah, I just want to thank you once again just for making yourself available to come have a chat to all the people that's going to be watching the video. And I'm sure that it's going to be of great help for a lot of people out there that I think is very lost at the moment and that just need some guidance as to what to do. And yeah, thank you once more just for joining in. For everybody that watched the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll be putting Carmen's details in the description of the video as well, and then to her website and to her social media as well, so you can get hold of her as well. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks, Carmen, for your time. It was really lovely.
Thanks for having me. Bye.